Excuse me. All right, hello out there, YouTube, again. So tonight I'm going to make a video. This is probably going to be the last. I kind of want to go through this and get this kind of all done at once. So tonight I'm going to talk about what is one of the more important factors in my search for the ideal folding knife. Which is scale material. Along with that, the last of this is all going to be purely it's really a personal choice. So I want to talk about scale materials. I want to talk about aesthetic appeal. I want to talk about aftermarket and size. So the last four things I'm going to talk about. I'm going to start with scale material so I can get most of this cleared off. So I don't have one out here, which should be bone, because bone scales on a modern traditional or a modern folder are I don't know if I've ever actually seen one. They're always on traditional types. And it kind of the same thing with the woods. So we'll start with woods. Woods, they look really nice in the right application. I think they, much like bone, they typically serve the best purpose within the traditional format of knives, whether it be slip joints or lockbacks. Wood, it feels okay. It's not overly slick, but it's smooth. I do like smooth, but I don't like too slick. But like I said, I see a lot of, Instagram and Google photos that show like a pair of three with wood scales, or a smock with wood scales. It just doesn't look right to me. Wood definitely looks well suited on a backlock or on a slip joint, and for that reason, I'm personally going to rule it out. Next to be the FRN. Spyderco does I think, in my opinion, Spyderco does probably the best job with their FRNs and all their lightweight models. But here's the thing: for as good as Spyderco does it, I still find that it feels cheap. Specifically, like the old Benchmade bug outs with that Grivory scale. It just felt, well, it really, all the Benchmade Grivory, I don't know how to say it. It just feels cheap, because it is cheap. That said, I just don't like, personally, I don't prefer FRN, GRN, Grivory, however you say it. The plastics, I'll call them. Which leads us into these final four. We'll go into the metals. Whether it's titanium, aluminum, copper, brass, steel, I find that it's, and I'm going to paint the metals with a broad brush here. I find that it's slick. More often than not, it's just too slick. Like, these knives that kick out super hard, like I feel like I have to hold on to them much harder than I want so that they won't go launching out of my hand. I feel like I'm on the verge of dropping them all the time. They're just too slick. Now, I'll say this much. I mean, as any of you that have been watching my videos, you've probably noticed I have a Tenacious with copper scales, and I love the patina that has taken. And to be honest with you, this smock, I really am digging the way the smock turned out for me. I don't know how well we can pick it up on the camera. I anodized all the liners, all the hardware, and put on some titanium scales. Really liking it. That said though, it's still a little slick. It's definitely a little heavier. For that reason, I'm going to rule out the metals. They're just too slick, too heavy. And I'm aware you can get textured titanium, and you can get, titanium's often lighter than, your G10s or whatever. Great. But for the most part, the metals are going to be heavier, slicker, and more expensive. These are my 3 preferred types, or scale materials. We'll talk about the carbon fibers. Now, carbon fiber is probably my favorite to look at. Like, I just love the look of a well-done carbon fiber. I mean, it just looks good. And then you've got a cheaper carbon fiber. So this is Flytanium's carbon fiber on a Tenacious. And it looks all right. It's carbon fiber, right? But first off, this is not textured. I mean, it's fairly slick. I've had a few different knives with carbon fiber that have kind of a light texturing to them, and they're great. I love those. One's actually in my house right now. I forgot to bring it out. So not all carbon fiber is slick, but this one is slick. Like, it is Kershaw Leek aluminum scale slick. It looks good. I just don't like the feel of it. I think this definitely has its place in a gentleman's capacity. I mean, this knife's a little big to be considered a gentleman's folder, but man, they just look so good. That one didn't come out right. There we go. This one, I guess the slickness of it doesn't matter so much because it fills out the hand so well. It's just shaped for a hand. Whereas this one's a little bit more, we'll just say budget. It's just slick. And to be honest, I've got half a dozen knives or more that all have carbon fiber of some variation on them. I get tired of looking at it. As good as it looks, I can get tired of looking at it. Which leads us to the final 2. micarta and G10. So G10 is typically excuse me, G10 is a standard knife scale material. Like, even on your budget knives, you're going to get G10, right? And I love the texture of G10. I like it when it's smooth but has a texture, and I like it when it's a little bit grippier and has a texture. Like, I just really like G10. Hang on a sec, y'all. My phone is killing me. Low battery. I don't know what recorded there. Gotta put it back in its little holder. Phone's at 20%. All right. So I like G10 when it's smooth, and I like G10 when it's a little bit grippier. I just like the feel of G10. And the thing about G10 is, while it's super common, it can also be pretty fancy. I don't know if we can, yeah, you can see the checkering on this. Like, this is a fancy scale. My Griptilians, both of my Griptilians have fancy G10 on them. Like, I love G10 when it's plain and super basic. I love the feel of it. I love the look of it. I love it when it's, tacty cool and whatever. And I love it when it's fancy. Like, I love the texture of it. I love the feel of it. And it's reasonably inexpensive. I do like me some G10. But I think the one that I love the most is micarta. Like, micarta is that, you know what? Scratch that. I do love micarta. Micarta is my favorite scale material by feel, by texture. I love how it feels. It's like the perfect middle ground of, a smooth but textured and a grippy G10. It's kind of just that middle of the road texture-wise that's just right. My concern with micarta would be that, much the same as carbon fiber, after I get 6 or 7 different knives in micarta, I'm gonna be like, getting kind of tired of micarta. And that's where G10 really comes into play, because you can get it as basic or as fancy as you want, and I still love the texturing. So that's that. That's my preferred scale materials, micarta and G10. So I've narrowed this down to manual action, thumb hole, updated, modernized lock system with micarta or G10 with a premium steel. So we'll take these two out. The lock and the material is what's going to hold this one back from being, because it's a liner lock and it's carbon fiber. The scale material is what's going to hold this one back, but we'll get into this one. Next, we're going to talk about size real quick. I was thinking about this a lot, and I'm less concerned about blade length than I am. I'm less concerned about blade length. I'm less concerned about close length as I am overall length. So I was thinking something between 7.5, and this one's probably closer to, this one's right about 7.5 to 8.5 overall length. be a bit off. Something in there. And I say that because this stupid light over my left shoulder is just kind of a whip. I'm just going to turn it off. There we go. I say that because knives like my Mini Griptilian or my Pinkerton Fire Ant or even my Kershaw Leeks, I just find them a little too small in the hand for me to really like them. For the longest time I was thinking, blade length, 3.4 inch blade length, 3.3 inch blade length. Yeah, that's all well and good. But at the end of the day, like, this knife feels pretty big. But, I mean, and I guess this knife in hand and in pocket feels bigger than this one. But its blade length, this is to me, by the way, it's just a weird thing. Don't worry about it. But I've been carrying this a lot lately. I really think it's more of like the design of it. It's really about its comfort in my hand. The Para 3, it's got such a short blade. Like, its blade is right at 3 inches. But it fits in the hand so nicely. Even if I go up on that forward choil, or if I get back on it, it just fits so nicely. And I can say the same for the Para 2 or the Paramilitary 2. It just feels so good in the hand, which is why I don't really want to lock down a blade length. And to be honest with you, I've been carrying this one quite a bit lately too. This one's close. Like, this one's just on the verge of being a little too short. So I'm going to say, that 7.5 inch to 8.5 inch overall length is probably the ideal. I'm not going to concern myself with weight too much. Like, I've got enough that I can change up my carry on days where I'm wearing athletic shorts or whatever. Most of the time I'm, wearing my work pants, and none of these knives are going to be a problem in that. Next, we're going to talk about aftermarket support real quick. So here's the thing, and I don't, see if I can get to it real quick. Stuck on something. Here we go. My Hogue knives. So I'm just going to tell you, and I'm going to talk about these in a specific video. I've already got a Deka video, and I'm going to make a video for the Ritter, but I'm going to make a combined Hogue video at some point in the fairly near future. These knives have absolutely the best action of any knife that I own. Like, hands down, bar none, not even close. Like, they are just buttery smooth, completely frictionless. 20 CV, I mean, these are fantastic knives. The only drawback to these specific knives relative to my search for the perfect folder is that these both have thumb studs instead of thumb holes. Like, that's, again, I talked about it in the last video or one of the previous videos. It's all about the fidget factor. I will sit there and do that all day at work if they let me. Um, these knives are fantastic. There is exactly zero aftermarket support on these knives. Like if I wanted to say, you know what, this would be the perfect knife if I could get it in micarta, the scales in micarta, or if I could get the body screws in red, whatever. That option is not out there with this knife. That option is not out there with this knife. They're still fantastic knives. I mean, G10, thumb stud, Axis lock, Able lock, 20 CV, best action. But at the end of the day, this is what they are. This is right here. How they look is how it's always going to look. There's just no support on the aftermarket. Whereas these two, and the Griptilians, and the 940s, and the Smock, and the ZT 0640, all have fantastic aftermarket support. I mean, fantastic. So if, you know, when I bought this, it had black G10 scales. This one, well, I mean, it's got the camo. I have another one, though, that I'm going to change. I'm going to put my card on it. But at the end of the day, what I can do is I can sit here and say, you know what? I don't need to buy the Sprint Run or whatever. I can buy this one for 100 and whatever it cost. And then just, you know, 2 weeks later, a couple weeks later, next paycheck, whatever, I can buy a set of micarta scales for $60. I can put it on myself. It's not that hard. The Smock is also that way. And you might see one in the future, a video of a Smock in micarta. The Manix. Love the Manix. Doesn't quite have the same aftermarket support as these guys have. I mean, these all, along with the Griptilian, the 940, the Bug Out, they all have better aftermarket support than the Manix. There's a little bit, more so than the Hogues, for sure. But it's not much. I mean, pocket clips, Flytanium, when they're not sold out of this, I waited on this part for like a solid 6 weeks. I mean, I had the knife, the scales, ready to anodize the liners, but I needed that part. Flytanium finally got them back in stock. I got one. So aftermarket support is something that, when you're buying your knives, consider that before committing to a big price tag. You know, if it's your grail knife, if it's your bucket list knife, then go for it, right? I have a few knives similar to this that were expensive, and I love them, love, right? But this is all it's ever going to be. Now, in this particular case, this is enough. Like, that's, love it. But a knife like this, all day. Like, there's 10 different manufacturers, suppliers that sell G10, micarta, titanium, wood, just about whatever scales you want to get on these, you can get. Don't be shy to buy these. But, think long and hard about buying these. Not these specifically, but I guess what I'm stressing here is if you're looking to get a knife for the sake of modifying it, for the sake of saying, you know what, that CRKT Amicus would look really good if it had this color scale and this color pocket clip and these color screws. Stop. Okay? Stop. Spend a day on eBay, Amazon, and Google and find screws, find scales, find pivot, find pocket clip. Because what you're going to find is there's not much there. So what you're going to end up with is this, which is a fine knife in my opinion. But if it's not the knife for you, you only wanted it to make it look this certain way, don't be upset if you get disappointed because it's not there. Last two things I want to talk about: ease of maintenance. I will tell you right now, this and these AbleLock, Axis Lock kind of things are difficult to work with. Not impossible. Obviously I did it, and at times I can be a borderline moron. But substantially more difficult than a compression lock, this, which is basically a compression lock, then a frame lock, then a liner lock. These are actually quite easy to work on. And finally, really, aesthetics is going to be totally personally specific. Right now, and this changes fairly frequently, right now, I absolutely love the sheep's foot, modified Wharncliffe, reverse Tonto, whatever you want to call it. I love that blade shape. Love it. When I was much younger, I loved a Tonto. And this one I actually really like because it's got this complex grind on it. I still like a Tonto. Oh, here's another sheep's foot, Wharncliffe, whatever. Love it. My favorite blade shape right now. But that could change because this one I like very much as well. Very much. I love the ergonomics on it too. Forward choil is always a big winner. Your standard spear points, they're okay. I really don't have a preference in that outside of, the sheep's foot, Wharncliffe, modified Tonto. I'm kind of over the Hawkbill or Karambit or Cleaver. I've had all those. I'm kind of over those. And real quick, because I feel like I'm running out of time, forward choils are great to have. They're great options. Yeah, so basically we're here. Premium steel, manual action, thumb hole, modernized lockup system, G10 and micarta, strong aftermarket support, easy to disassemble for maintenance. When I find the knife, I'll let you guys know, but these ones in my Griptilians are pretty much, let me rephrase, these ones in my Griptilians are pretty much strong contenders. All right, you guys have any comments or questions? Leave them down below. You guys have a great night.